The spaceport city of Valon Prime was always bright, always noisy, and always crowded. It was a place where thousands of alien species walked under the same neon lights and breathed the same recycled air. The smell of metal, spices, fuel, and cold mist from air vents mixed into a strange perfume that Rylan, a young human trader, had grown used to over the years. Rylan stepped out of the public shuttle, adjusted the strap of his old backpack, and scanned the huge marketplace stretching in front of him. Tall buildings rose like metal trees. Holographic signs flickered above every stall. Traders shouted offers in dozens of languages. Robots rolled by with cargo. Everything was moving, shifting, changing. Rylan had come here many times, usually to find affordable ship parts or to sell scavenged equipment. But today, his visit had a different purpose. His ship, the Starling, had suffered a serious malfunction after a rough landing on a desert moon. If he didn't find a replacement power regulator soon, he would be stuck on Valon for weeks, something he couldn't afford. His credit balance was painfully low. He had enough money for either the part he needed or the supplies required for his next journey, but not both. Still, he kept walking, hoping he would get lucky and find someone selling the regulator at a cheap price. The marketplace was divided into districts. The upper district had the official shops, the licensed vendors, the security drones, and the fair prices, well, fair for the rich. Rylan usually avoided that area because everything there was too expensive. Instead, he made his way toward the lower district, a maze-like network of narrow alleys, hidden stalls, and dim lights. The lower district was chaotic and a little risky, but it was the only place where rare parts could be found at bargain prices. Rylan had spent half his life in places like this. He was careful, he kept his head down, and he never touched anything without permission. That was how he stayed out of trouble. As he walked deeper into the maze of shops, he heard voices shouting, boxes clattering, and machines humming loudly. Vendors waved small, glowing devices, claiming they had the best deals. Others held metallic spheres filled with floating lights. Strange fruits from distant planets were piled in tall baskets. Rylan walked past them all, searching for a stall that sold ship parts. But then, something unusual caught his attention. A group of people had gathered around a small fenced area near the corner of an alley. The crowd wasn't loud. They weren't shouting or trading. Instead, they stood silently, as if watching something. Rylan didn't usually get distracted, but curiosity tugged at him. He moved closer, weaving through the crowd until he reached the front. There, inside a line of transparent cages, sat several alien catgirls. Rylan froze. His breath caught in his throat. He had seen many alien species before, but catgirls members of the Falara species were rare. They were known for their agility, intelligence, and gentle nature. Their appearance was a mix of human-like features and feline characteristics. Large, expressive eyes, soft fur patterned like a tiger or snowcat, long tails, and triangular ears that twitched with emotion. But what shocked Rylan wasn't their appearance. It was the sign above them, exotic goods for special cuisine. Rylan felt a cold feeling in his chest. He understood the meaning immediately. They were being treated not as people, but as food. He leaned forward and looked at them closely. There were 5 in total. They all looked young, maybe late teens or early adulthood. Their fur colors ranged from silver to golden brown. Their clothes were simple, nothing more than thin cloth wraps. They were sitting quietly, their heads lowered, their eyes tired. One of them lifted her head when she felt Rylan's gaze. She had soft white fur and light blue eyes that shimmered like water. Her ears were drooping. Her tail curled tightly around her legs. She did not speak, but something in her eyes told Rylan she was scared. Rylan glanced at the trader who owned the cages. He was a tall alien with gray skin, long arms, and deep-set red eyes. He wore a badge showing he was part of the Underground Merchant Guild, a group known for dealing in illegal goods. The trader was counting credits handed to him by another customer. Rylan clenched his jaw. He didn't want trouble, but the scene in front of him made him feel uneasy. Falara were not animals. They were a recognized, intelligent species. How were they allowed to be sold like this? He scanned the marketplace again. No guards were nearby. No officials. No protections. Isn't this illegal? He whispered to himself, but the answer came easily. In the lower district, laws were often ignored. This part of the city looked the other way as long as enough credits flowed. Ryland stepped back, hoping the uneasy feeling in his heart would fade. He tried to reason with himself. He couldn't do anything. He was nearly broke. He didn't know these cat girls. He wasn't a hero or a fighter. He was just a trader. Still, he couldn't make himself walk away. His eyes drifted back to the white-furred girl. She looked at him again. Her gaze was soft but desperate, like she was silently asking for help even though she didn't expect any to come. Rylan exhaled slowly and forced himself to continue walking. He needed to focus on his ship. He needed the power regulator. That was the purpose of his journey here, but only a few steps later, he stopped again. His heart felt heavy. He turned around. The trader had opened one of the cages and was talking to a customer. The customer examined one of the cat girls as if she were a simple object. The girl held herself very still, her tail trembling. Rylan couldn't ignore it anymore. He walked back to the trader and cleared his throat. "How much?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. The trader looked up, surprised. "For which one?" he asked, his voice low and rough. "Or do you want all of them?" Rylan's heart skipped. All?" he repeated. "Yes," the trader said. "I sell individually or as a group. Prices depend on age, fur quality, and health." Rylan's stomach twisted at the coldness of the words. He forced himself to stay calm. "How much for all of them?" he asked. The trader named a price. Rylan froze again. It was almost the exact amount of credits he had left. If he bought them, he would have nothing left, not even enough to buy food for himself, let alone the part for his ship. His mind raced. This was a ridiculous idea. He couldn't afford this. He didn't even know what he would do after freeing them. He had no safe place to take them. No plan. No backup. He should walk away. It was the only reasonable choice, but his heart had already made a decision. He looked at the cat girls. Their eyes were hopeful now, not much. Only a small spark, but it was enough. The white-furred girl pressed her hands against the cage wall, watching him with quiet hope. Rylan turned back to the trader. "I'll buy them," he said, his voice steady and clear. The trader blinked, surprised. "All of them?" "Yes," the trader grinned. "Payment first." Rylan reached into his backpack and pulled out his credit chip. His hand shook slightly as he placed it on the scanner. The chip beeped, confirming the transfer. His balance dropped to almost zero. The trader was satisfied. "They're yours," he said. "Take them. But move fast. I have no interest in explaining anything if someone questions it." Rylan nodded. He helped unlock the cages one by one. The cat girls stepped out carefully, unsure if this was real. They looked at him with a mix of hope and confusion. "You're free now," Rylan said softly. "I'll take you somewhere safe." They didn't respond immediately. Some were trembling. Some were looking around nervously. Afraid it was a trap, the white-furred girl stepped closer to him and whispered, "Thank you." Her voice was gentle, almost musical. Rylan gave her a small smile. "Let's get out of here before anyone changes their mind." He led them through the crowded marketplace, keeping his head low. He didn't want the guild members or guards noticing him with them. He guided them through narrow alleys, past broken signs, past leaking pipes, past old droids that sparked softly. The cat girls followed silently, their steps light and graceful. Their ears twitched at every sound, their tails moving nervously. Rylan finally reached a quiet storage area near the docking platforms. His ship wasn't far, just on the other side of the maintenance yard. He turned to the group. "My ship is small," he warned, "but it's safe. We'll leave this planet as soon as possible." The cat girls exchanged glances. Some nodded, Some still looked uncertain. But all of them followed. They reached the Starling, a worn but reliable ship with scratched paint and patched panels. Rylan opened the ramp and motioned them inside. The interior was cramped but clean. The catgirls looked around, unsure where to sit. Rylan offered them blankets and water from his storage compartment. They accepted quietly. He sat down on a small crate, running a hand through his hair. He had no money, no parts, no plan, but he looked at the catgirls, and he felt no regret. He had done the right thing. The white-furred girl sat closest to him. "Why did you help us?" she asked softly. Rylan shrugged. "Because you needed help," he said simply. "And I couldn't walk away." She studied him with her bright blue eyes. "My name is Lyra," she said gently. We thank you." The others introduced themselves too, one by one. Rylan nodded to each of them. "I'm Rylan," he said. "I promise." Before he could say more, his ship's alarm beeped softly. Rylan checked the screen. His heart pounded. A security drone was moving toward his docking area. Someone must have noticed the missing catgirls. He stood up quickly. "We need to leave. Right now." The catgirls tensed, understanding the danger instantly. Rylan hurried to the cockpit and powered up the engines. Their warm hum filled the ship. The catgirls held onto the walls as the Starling lifted off the platform. The drone approached fast. Rylan gritted his teeth, pulled the control lever, and shot the ship into the upper air lanes. The chase had already begun. The engine of the Starling roared as it lifted into the crowded sky lanes of Velon Prime. Rylan's hands gripped the controls tightly, eyes scanning the displays. The security drone that had noticed the missing Falara catgirls was gaining on them. Its metallic body gleamed in the neon light, hovering silently but steadily. Inside the ship, the catgirls clung to the walls, their tails wrapped tightly around themselves. Their ears twitched at every sound. Lyra, the white-furred girl with the gentle blue eyes, held her hands together nervously. "Stay calm," Rylan said, though his voice betrayed his tension. "We just need to get out of the city. Then we'll be safe." "But they can fly," one of the catgirls whispered. Her fur was golden, her eyes wide and cautious. "How can we escape them?" Rylan shook his head. "Not exactly fly. They're drones. They have limited mobility. If we stick to fast maneuvers and narrow paths, we can lose them." He pushed a lever, sending the ship spiraling between tall skyscrapers. The Starling wasn't the fastest ship in the galaxy, but it was nimble, and Rylan knew the city like the back of his hand. He dodged a series of hovering cargo transports, narrowly avoiding collisions. Sparks flew from a nearby antenna as they brushed past, making the catgirls jump. "Sorry," Rylan said quickly. "We don't have time for polite flying." The drone followed relentlessly. Its single red eye scanned, calculating Rylan's every move. Rylan knew he couldn't just outrun it. He needed a plan, something clever. Then he saw it. A maintenance tunnel between two skyscrapers. It was narrow, cramped, and almost invisible from the sky lanes above. "Hold on," Rylan shouted. "We're going in there." The catgirls gripped the walls, holding tight as the ship entered the tunnel. Sparks flew as the Starling scraped the metal walls. The drone hesitated at the entrance. Its sensors were too large to fit inside. Rylan smiled slightly. "That's how we lose them," he muttered. The drone hovered at the tunnel entrance, unable to follow. Rylan took the opportunity to push the ship forward, weaving deeper into the city's underlayers. The catgirls relaxed slightly. Lyra exhaled, her tail uncoiling. "You're very clever," she said softly. Rylan shook his head. "I've just done a lot of running in this city. I know the shortcuts." After several tense minutes of navigating the narrow tunnels, they emerged into the quieter outskirts of Velon Prime. The neon lights dimmed, replaced by the soft glow of moons reflecting on distant water towers. Rylan set the ship to low power to avoid detection. Inside the cabin, the catgirls looked around, their expressions a mix of awe and relief. "This is your ship?" asked a silver-furred girl with stripes on her tail. "It's small," But safe. Rylan nodded. It gets the job done. I can fly anywhere. And I've got supplies for a few days. He paused. If we're careful, we can get you somewhere no one can find you. The cat girls exchanged glances. Lyra stepped forward. We don't know your world, Rylan, she said. We don't know who we can trust. Why help us? Rylan hesitated. He had never been asked that question before. Most of his life, humans acted out of self-interest, but something in their eyes, in their vulnerability, made him answer honestly. Because it's the right thing to do, he said simply. Because no one deserves to be treated like that. And because I couldn't walk away. There was a silence. Then Lyra nodded slowly. Thank you, she whispered. Rylan ignored the lump forming in his throat. There wasn't time to linger in sentimentality. They had to leave the star system entirely if they wanted to be safe. He plotted a course to the outer rim, where law enforcement was weaker and the black market less organized. It would be a long journey, but safer than staying in Velon Prime. As the starlings soared into open space, Rylan began organizing the cat girls. You'll need to know how to stay safe on the ship, he said. There are manual overrides, emergency hatches, and communication systems. I'll show you. The cat girls were eager to learn. Lyra quickly grasped the controls, fascinated by the buttons, levers, and screens. The silver-furred girl, named Tira, was more cautious, asking questions about every alarm and indicator. The others explored the storage compartments, testing how the low gravity affected their movement. Rylan watched them carefully. It wasn't just about safety. It was about building trust. He realized that helping them escape was only the first step. If they were to survive in a universe that often didn't care about them, they needed to understand and adapt. Hours passed in this routine. Rylan taught, they learned, and the quiet hum of the ship became a comforting background to their conversations. The cat girls shared stories of their homeworld, a lush forest planet far in the outer systems, where they had lived in harmony with nature. They spoke of culture, music, games, and simple joys, things Rylan had never considered before in his busy, money-driven life. Listening to them, he realized how rich and complex their lives had been before the black market's greed had torn them away. Suddenly, the calm was shattered by a warning beep. Rylan's head snapped toward the screen. A radar blip appeared, moving fast and direct toward them. Another one? Tira whispered, fear in her voice. Rylan's jaw tightened. Not just another one, he said. A bounty hunter. And they're good. The cat girls stiffened. They had not yet faced someone so determined. Rylan tried to calm them. We've trained for emergencies, remember? Stick with me, and we'll handle this. The blip on the screen grew larger. Rylan recognized the ship design immediately. A sleek, black, hunter-class vessel. Its engines glowed faintly, giving away its speed. Whoever was inside was fast and professional. Rylan took a deep breath. We can't outrun them in a straight chase, he said. We'll have to outsmart them. He began weaving the starling through an asteroid belt. Massive rocks floated silently in space, some as large as small buildings. The cat girls clung to the walls, their ears flattened, their tails curled. Rylan adjusted shields and thrusters carefully. The hunter ship followed, but it had to slow down to avoid collision. That's it! Rylan shouted, a spark of hope in his chest. Asteroids are our friends. Keep your eyes open. The cat girls helped, pointing out rocks and debris as Rylan maneuvered. Lyra's hands were steady as she watched the controls. Helping him judge distances, Tira shouted warnings when larger asteroids appeared. Together, they became a team. The hunter ship struggled to keep up. Its sleek design made it fast in open space, but the dense asteroid belt was not its advantage. Rylan grinned. This was what he was good at, thinking fast, planning, adapting. After an hour of careful navigation, they managed to lose the hunter ship. The radar showed it retreating, unable to follow further without risking its own destruction. The cat girls cheered quietly, hugging each other in relief. Rylan allowed himself a small smile. "See?" he said. "Nothing we can't handle." Lyra approached him, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You saved our lives," she said. "We owe you more than we can say." Rylan shook his head. "You don't owe me anything. I just did what any human should do." They settled in for the next part of the journey. The cat girls explored the ship more fully, learning where to find emergency supplies, how to operate life support controls, and even how to communicate with other ships using the encrypted channels. Rylan watched them, feeling a sense of pride. Despite everything they had gone through, they were resilient. They adapted quickly, learned fast, and showed courage that he admired deeply. Night passed in relative silence. The stars stretched endlessly outside the windows. The cat girls had fallen asleep, curled in blankets. Rylan sat in the cockpit, eyes fixed on the distant horizon. He thought of ViewerShip, of the crowded streets, and of the traders who had treated life as a commodity. He clenched his fists. There was a lot of work ahead. They couldn't just float in space forever. They needed a safe place to stay. A place where the cat girls could be free, learn, and grow without fear. Rylan didn't know where that place was yet, but he knew he would find it. And whatever challenges came, he would face them. Not because he wanted glory or reward, but because he cared. He glanced back at Lyra, sleeping peacefully. Her soft breathing was a comfort to him. He thought of the others, of their soft purrs and quiet murmurs in sleep. They trusted him. That trust was precious, and he would not betray it. As the first light of a distant star illuminated the cabin, Rylan felt a renewed determination. The galaxy was dangerous. Many would exploit, harm, or ignore the innocent. But humans and he himself were capable of courage, intelligence, and kindness. Rylan whispered to himself, a quiet promise. "We'll find a safe place. You'll have your freedom. And I'll make sure no one can take it away from you." Outside, the stars stretched on, endless and bright. The starling continued its journey, carrying hope, courage, and a small group of aliens who had just begun to understand the kindness a human could offer. The journey was far from over, but for the first time, the cat girls knew they were not alone. And for Rylan, the galaxy suddenly felt full of possibility. The ship drifted through the outer rim of the star system, where stars were fewer and planets smaller, dark, and distant. Rylan kept the engines on low power, allowing the cat girls to rest and regain some strength. After the close chase through the asteroid belt, they needed quiet, and Rylan knew it. Lyra, still soft-furred and gentle, sat near a small console, her tail curled neatly beside her. She stared at the passing stars, her eyes reflecting the distant light. "Do humans often help others like you do?" she asked softly, breaking the quiet. Rylan shook his head. "Not always. Most humans think first about themselves, their credits, or their goals. But some will do the right thing when it matters most." He glanced at her, smiling faintly. "I hope we can be examples of that." Quote, "When sing lice." Quote, Lyra nodded. She looked at her companions, who were slowly waking from their rest. Tira, the cautious, silver-furred girl, rubbed her eyes and stretched her limbs. "We're far from home," she said. "But this ship feels safer than anywhere else we've been." Rylan's stomach tightened. "It's not perfect. But for now, it's the safest place you have." They spent the next few hours quietly exploring the ship. The cat girls moved with careful curiosity, testing buttons, levers, and compartments. They found emergency packs, small food rations, water reserves, and even life support manuals. Rylan guided them through every system, teaching them simple controls and safety procedures. By the time the system maps were explained and roles assigned, the cat girls were beginning to feel more like a crew than just passengers. Lyra and Tira practiced using the communications console, while the younger cat girls learned basic navigation principles. Rylan was impressed by how quickly they adapted. Their intelligence, he realized, was far beyond what he had expected. But Rylan also knew danger was never far behind. He double-checked the ship's sensors and radar, keeping an eye on any unusual movement in space. The galaxy, after all, had countless hunters, pirates, and other beings who would exploit the weak if given the chance. Hours passed peacefully. The catgirls relaxed, even laughing softly at small mistakes made while trying the ship controls. But then, a soft beep startled everyone. Rylan rushed to the console. A new blip appeared on the radar, fast, small, and precise. Not a drone this time. A bounty hunter. Rylan's lips pressed into a thin line. "They found us," he said. "And this one is skilled." The catgirls tensed immediately, their ears flattened, tails curling tight. They had felt the danger before, but this time, it was closer, smarter, more deliberate. Rylan took a deep breath. "We're going to need to move fast. And we're going to need to work together." He explained the plan quickly. They would travel through a nearby nebula, where sensors and radar would have trouble picking up the ship. The nebula was full of gas clouds, ion storms, and swirling particles, a natural hiding place. But it was tricky. A wrong maneuver could damage the ship. Lyra stepped forward. "I can help," she said. Her hands hovered over a small panel. "I've been watching your movements, Rylan. I think I can predict the hunter's path if we take careful turns." Rylan hesitated, then nodded. "Okay. But stay calm and follow my instructions." Together, they steered the ship toward the nebula. The light shifted, stars blurred, and the air inside the cabin felt heavier, though space itself was empty. The catgirls held on tight, but their determination showed. They were no longer passive passengers. They wanted to fight for their freedom. The bounty hunter followed quickly. Its ship moved with precision, anticipating Rylan's every turn. The blip on the radar moved in perfect coordination. Rylan's jaw clenched. He had to be smarter, faster, more careful than ever. They entered the nebula. Thick clouds of purple and green gas swirled around them. Sensors became unreliable. The ship rattled slightly from small electrical interference. "Hold steady," Rylan shouted. "Watch the readings." Lyra helped monitor the hunter's position on the radar. "It's getting confused," she said. "It's struggling to follow through the gas." Rylan allowed himself a small smile. "Good. Now let's make this trick count." He pushed the engines to maximum safe power, maneuvering the Starling through a series of tight turns, weaving through dense clouds. The nebula's ion storms caused sparks in the control panels. Lights flickered. The catgirls gripped the walls, their tails twitching. Minutes felt like hours. Every second was tense, but slowly, the hunter ship began to fall behind. It hesitated too long in the nebula, unable to match their nimble movements. Rylan knew it would eventually turn back. It was too risky to follow through this natural trap. Finally, the radar cleared. The blip of the hunter had vanished. The cabin erupted in quiet relief. Lyra exhaled deeply, tail relaxing for the first time in hours. "We did it," she whispered. Rylan allowed himself a small smile. "We're not safe yet," he reminded them. "But this is a start." The catgirls spent the next few hours recuperating. Rylan shared simple meals with them, protein bars, water rations, and small treats he had carried from GalacticPrime. They laughed softly, sharing stories of their past lives. Tira spoke about her home village in the Falara forests, where tall trees touched the skies and streams ran like ribbons of silver. Lyra shared tales of games she had played with her friends, chasing sunlight and leaping across branches. Even in the cramped ship cabin, their memories brought warmth and life. Rylan listened, fascinated. He realized how much courage it had taken for them to survive the marketplace. They had endured fear and uncertainty with dignity and intelligence. They were more than survivors. They were warriors in their own way, though their battles had been of endurance and spirit rather than violence. By the time the nebula ended, they had become a small, unified team. The catgirls trusted him, and he trusted them. It was an unusual bond, but one forged in adversity, built on mutual respect and determination. Their next challenge appeared when the ship's sensors picked up an abandoned space station near a small moon. Rylan checked the schematics. It was old, barely functional, but it offered shelter, supplies, and a chance to rest. "Let's dock," Rylan said. "It's not perfect, but it's safer than staying in open space. We can repair parts, gather food, and plan our next move." The catgirls agreed eagerly. The station's docking bay was dark and silent. Dust floated in the air, and loose panels rattled softly as the Starling approached. Rylan guided the ship carefully, avoiding the broken sections. The ship touched down gently. Inside the station, the catgirls explored with wide eyes. Rusted walls, dim lights, and old control panels gave it a forgotten charm. They found basic supplies: water, preserved rations, and small sleeping areas. Lyra found a tiny library of logs and books left behind by the previous station crew. "This is wonderful," she said, her voice soft. "We can learn, rest, and recover here." Rylan smiled. "Exactly. We need to be ready for the next stage of the journey. There's still a lot of danger out there." While they settled in, Rylan accessed the station's communication system. It was old, but functional. He sent encrypted messages to friendly contacts in nearby star systems, asking for information on safe planets and trading posts that would help them. The catgirls watched, fascinated by his skill with technology. Lyra even attempted to send a short message herself, learning quickly how to encode and hide their location from anyone who might try to track them. Days passed on the station. The catgirls grew stronger, more confident, and more familiar with the routines of life aboard a ship. Rylan taught them navigation, star charts, and emergency procedures. They shared stories, sang songs from their homeworld, and even played small games in the dim corridors. But Rylan never let his guard down. Every sensor ping, every shadow, every unexplained signal made him tense. He knew the hunters were still out there, somewhere, and he knew the galaxy was full of beings who would exploit the weak if given the chance. One night, while monitoring the radar, he noticed a faint but deliberate pattern. Something, or someone, was circling the station, too cautious to approach directly. Rylan frowned. He couldn't see the ship clearly, but his instincts told him it was not random. He called the catgirls together. "We may have company," he said. "I don't know who it is yet, but we need to be ready." Lyra stepped forward. "Then we prepare," she said firmly. "We've learned so much. We can face danger together." Rylan nodded. "Exactly. That's what I wanted to hear." The group spent the night fortifying their temporary home, checking systems, and preparing escape plans. They had survived the market, the city, the bounty hunter, and the nebula. Now, they were ready for whatever came next. Rylan looked at them and felt pride swell in his chest. The journey had changed them all. They were no longer merely rescued catgirls. They were a team, a small family, and a testament to courage, intelligence, and trust. He whispered quietly to himself, looking at the stars outside the station. "We've made it this far, and we will make it even further. Together." The universe was vast, full of dangers, but also full of hope. And for Rylan and the catgirls, hope had become their strongest weapon. The journey had been long. The stars stretched endlessly outside the Starling's cockpit, their light flickering through the cabin like tiny beacons of hope. Rylan had flown countless hours through uncharted space, avoiding pirates, bounty hunters, and unstable nebulae. The catgirls had grown more confident with every maneuver, their skills improving daily. Together, they were no longer just a human and rescued aliens, they were a team. Yet, Rylan knew their final challenge was ahead. He had been tracking a small, uncharted planet in a distant star system. The readings were promising. Vast forests, clean rivers, and a breathable atmosphere. Most importantly, the planet seemed uninhabited, at least by anyone who would harm them. "This is it," Rylan said, his eyes glued to the holographic display. "If the readings are correct, this could be your new home." The catgirls leaned over the console, peering at the rotating globe of green and blue. Lyra's eyes widened. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Her tail swished with excitement. "It looks like the forests of our homeworld." Tira, ever cautious, studied the readings. There are no cities. No large signals. It seems safe. But we must still be careful. Rylan nodded. Exactly. Safety first. But I think you'll like this place. The ship descended into the planet's atmosphere, cutting through soft clouds that reflected the light of a nearby sun. The air was warm, fresh, and fragrant with the smell of vegetation. Birds, large, colorful, and alien in shape, soared across the sky. The catgirls pressed their hands against the windows, awestruck. This is perfect," Lyra said softly. "We could live here. Truly live." Rylan guided the starling to a clearing near a calm river. The landing was smooth. The ground was soft, covered in moss and tall grass. When the ramp lowered, the catgirls stepped out cautiously, their feet sinking slightly into the soft earth. Tira knelt down and touched the ground. "It feels alive," she murmured. "Like it wants us here." The others ran forward, exploring the clearing. Their laughter filled the air, a sound Rylan hadn't heard from them before. It was light, joyful, and free. He watched them, smiling, feeling a warmth in his chest. This was why he had risked everything. For moments like this. "This will be your home," he said quietly. "You're safe now. No one can touch you here." Lyra returned to him, her blue eyes shining. "And you, Rylan? Will you stay with us?" Rylan shook his head. "I'll stay as long as you need me. But the galaxy is big. I have other people to help, other lives to protect. I'll visit, I promise. But this place, this can be yours." The catgirls understood. They didn't want to pull him away from his path, they simply wanted to show gratitude. Lyra handed him a small, woven bracelet made from vines and glowing threads. "For friendship," she said. "So you remember us." Rylan accepted it, a small smile tugging at his lips. "I'll never forget you," he said. Over the next days, they explored the planet together. The catgirls discovered fruits, fresh water, and small caves for shelter. Rylan taught them how to use simple technology to monitor the planet, make shelters, and create safe zones. They worked as a team, combining their intelligence with his experience. The planet was rich with life. Trees taller than any on their homeworld stretched into the sky. Rivers sparkled under the sunlight. Strange but harmless creatures roamed the forests. For the first time, the catgirls felt the true meaning of freedom. One afternoon, while gathering supplies from a small ridge, Lyra turned to Rylan. "Do you think others will come here?" she asked. "Humans, aliens, hunters." Rylan shook his head. "I don't think so. It's remote, hidden from usual routes, and we'll be careful. We'll make sure this place remains safe. But even if someone finds it, you now know how to protect yourselves. You're strong, intelligent, and capable." The catgirls nodded. Their training, combined with the lessons from their journey, had prepared them for the world outside the ship. They were no longer just rescued, they were ready to live, to thrive, to be free. Days turned into weeks. The catgirls built a small community with Rylan's guidance. They crafted homes in the trees, simple structures that blended with the environment. Lyra taught the younger ones to climb and navigate the forest safely. Tira monitored the surroundings, ensuring the area remained undisturbed. Rylan spent his time helping them improve their shelters, teaching basic farming techniques, and setting up systems to track the weather and environment. He was proud of how quickly they adapted. They were no longer victims, they were survivors and pioneers. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky filled with stars, Rylan sat with Lyra on a hill overlooking the forest. The air was warm, filled with the sounds of creatures and the gentle rustling of leaves. "We did it," Lyra said softly. "We're safe. We're free." Rylan nodded. "Yes. And it's just the beginning." You have a life now. One that's yours to shape. No one can take that from you. She smiled, her tail curling around her legs. Thank you, Rylan, for everything. You didn't have to help us. But you did. Rylan shrugged, looking out at the horizon. I didn't do it for thanks. I did it because it was right. But thank you for saying that. They sat in silence, watching the stars. The night was peaceful, calm, and full of possibilities. For the first time, the cat girls felt a life without fear. For the first time, Rylan felt the quiet satisfaction of truly helping someone. Weeks later, the cat girls' community had grown. They cultivated gardens, created safe spaces, and even built small schools for learning and training. Rylan visited regularly, helping them expand, teaching survival skills, and sharing stories from his travels. The planet became their sanctuary. No humans, no traders, no bounty hunters could reach them. And if anyone ever tried, the cat girls were no longer defenseless. They were prepared, intelligent, and united. One morning, Lyra approached Rylan, holding a small device she had found in the abandoned library aboard the space station. It was a communication beacon. Rylan, she said, we can use this to reach other species in need, others like us, who need help. Rylan smiled. Exactly. You've learned so much. Now you can pass that knowledge on, helping others survive and thrive. They spent the next few days setting up the beacon, using the lessons Rylan had taught them about encrypted signals and hidden channels. Soon, they were ready to send messages of hope, guiding lost or oppressed alien species to safety. The cat girls had grown from victims into heroes in their own right. They had learned courage, intelligence, and teamwork. And now, they could extend that to others. One evening, as the twin moons of the planet rose in the sky, the cat girls gathered with Rylan at the highest hill, overlooking their new home. This is more than a place to survive, Rylan said, his voice carrying in the night air. This is a place to live, to grow, to be free. You've earned it, and you've earned the chance to help others, just like you were helped. Lyra stepped forward, her tail flicking with excitement. We will protect this planet, and we will help others who need a safe place. You've taught us that kindness and courage matter more than anything. Rylan's eyes softened. He looked at each of them, Lyra, Tira, and the others. They were smiling, proud, confident, and free. He realized that his small act of bravery in the marketplace had grown into something far bigger. They weren't just safe, they were ready to make the galaxy a better place. The night air was calm, filled with the sounds of nature. The stars above shone brightly, like countless points of possibility, and the starling, their vessel that had carried them through danger, rested nearby, ready for the next adventure if needed. Rylan whispered quietly to himself, a promise for the future. Wherever danger exists, wherever someone is in need, I will find them, and I will help. Because that is who we are. That is what humanity can be. The cat girls watched him, understanding the meaning behind his words. They had learned that courage, compassion, and intelligence could overcome fear and injustice. They had learned that freedom was possible, even in the darkest corners of the galaxy. And together, under the twin moons and endless stars, they faced the future with hope, courage, and the certainty that no one could ever take their freedom away. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown dangers, but also full of kindness, bravery, and hope. And for Rylan and the cat girls, that hope was now their home. For the first time, they were truly free.